So good. Hey everybody, this is Nina here. Tonight's video, I honestly don't know what to make. I thought for a while, since I've been getting some requests and a few people asking me, what's my next video? So honestly, I couldn't really think of anything since my new life here in my new town that I live at now for the past 2 years. And also, I've been busy working full-time and just doing me. So I thought, why don't I just share some of my hobbies with you guys? And those hobbies include reading books. Yes, I know. I don't think reading is really meant for everyone. This is the one that I am currently reading. It is a great story. It's about a girl who is 31 years old. She lives with their grandmother, and there is a guy who turns out was a former hockey player, is renovating their home. And I bought this book at thriftbooks.com. Recently, I've been into many Christian stories, and what's really great about stories like this especially is that it gives you a different type of perspective of what the person is either struggling with or what is going on that protagonist, and I just think it's really great. Not only that, but I got many more coming in. All right, let's go get them. Oh boy, there she is. Hang on, one more. Now, these are all my book collections. The ones you are seeing on top, these are the ones that I am going to be reading next / currently reading. Alright, so now the one that I just got not too long ago are these 2 books that came in the mail. One is by Becky Wade, which I would informed you guys of what this book is about. And I got this one by Francine Rivers. And let me tell you, Francine Rivers is actually my favorite author now. I mean, many Christian authors, and out of all of them, I really love this person so much because I was first reading the book Redeeming Love, and I found it at the thrift store and thought, Redeeming Love? This is an interesting title, so let me show you. When I first read this book, I thought, wow. And the movie's actually been coming out in theaters this coming Friday on the 21st. When I first saw the trailer, I thought it was, like a fan made, like how some people do. But then, they're actually going to be making a stinking movie based on this story. Like, hello? So this story, it is actually based off of Hosea, where he marries a prostitute. Now this prostitute in this story, this actually takes place during the gold rush in the 1850s in California, where there is a prostitute by the name Angel who has been going through so many traumatic experiences, and then one day she meets a guy named Michael Hosea, and oh my gosh, every dream girl's wish is to be with a guy like Michael Hosea. And when I read this story, I thought, wow, Francine Rivers has done an excellent job. And I'm not gonna lie, was watching an interview and podcast of this book. She has done an excellent job. And now I have pre-ordered her book, The Lady Is Mine, and I bought this one, thriftbooks.com. When you go to Thrift Books, they got so many books for like better prices because they were used. But this one looks like it's brand spanking new. Like, hey, this is like, why not? All 3 of these books right here are C.S. Lewis. If you are familiar with that name, it's because C.S. Lewis has actually written, well, I don't know why I said Ashley, sorry. He has written the Chronicles of Narnia, so that is how you are familiar with his work. I read a couple of them called The Great Divorce, Mere Christianity, Miracles. I haven't read it yet, like I said, but I want to so bad, and I would like to get more of his other books, like any works that he has done, except for the Chronicles of Narnia. These shelves right here, these shelves right here that I have, these are the books that I'm going to be reading again. And thought, better yet, you know, what's better to read these books again is I put it in a small shelf. And also, these are the 3 other books that I have. Yeah, you saw that. These are the books that I have of Jane Austen's. I have Emma, but she is a lot bigger. You know, the book I'm talking about. I will admit, I haven't read this one yet. I was about to, but then with all the other books that I'm like been wanting to read, I go, you know what? I don't know. I will tell you this. Pride and Prejudice is actually one of my favorites from Jane Austen. And it's just like an extraordinary love story. And what I find it interesting is in Hallmark movies and in some other modern movies, they use it based off of it, and it's so obvious. And when I read Persuasion, this is a little bit smaller than Pride and Prejudice and Mansfield Park. But I gotta say, with Pride and Prejudice, if you have not seen the movie with Kate Knightley in it, you gotta watch it. I haven't watched the TV program version of Pride and Prejudice. A lot of people say they like that one a lot better than the movie. I think the movie just kind of has that more cinematic version of it and how surreal it is. Sometimes my pronunciations are a little bit off. But anyways, Jane Austen, heard her or not, I think she writes amazing stories. I haven't read Emma yet, and I have her, but she can't fit in these shelves. I'm sorry. Moving on. So these are my other books that I have. It's ridiculous, I know. What's also a good thing about these types of books that I have, most of them are thrift stores and thriftbooks.com once again. And the reason why I did is because you can't really find books any elsewhere. And what better yet to either buy them through Amazon, through christianbooks.com, or even Barnes & Noble. I was so close into getting the membership. However, I like to own my books. I like to read them again. They're just so interesting. And I figure, you know, why not? And some of the books that were given to me, I have a coworker who has given me the book Interview with a Vampire. Also, if you are familiar with the title, you probably have seen a movie with Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise. And forgive me, I don't know her name, but she was played as Mary Jane in Spider-Man. So the reason why my coworker has given me this book was during the time I was taking a horror film class, and he decided to give me 7 or 8 horror books, and I thought, okay, and I originally thought he was giving me these books to borrow, but it turns out he was giving me these books to keep. And I gave all of his book away except for this one because I was like, you know, I'm still reading it. And what I really like about this book, he has put down the definitions of the word and what it means. To me, I'm like, there are some things that I am not familiar with it. And when I was reading the Interview with the Vampire, I like, the things I like about books like this, it takes place during historical times, like in the 17 and 1800s. I like history books, but then yet they like to make it more fictional, you know what I mean? So these are the type of books I'm into. So there you go. Another book that I finished reading almost last week, is Where Treasure Hides. And this is the book club that I have, except this is my copy. There's no subscriptions that I had or anything. So this one takes place during World War II. This woman by the name Allison falls in love with the British soldier Ian, and yet another dreamboat guy that any other girl wants. Ian is a true gentleman, and he loves and cares for Allison. So it takes place where she lives in Holland, and later on in the story they ended up getting married, but then yet she was tricked. Nazi soldiers has tricked her because he has fallen in love with Allison, but he's like a guy who makes a weird approach. Instead of, unlike Ian, he makes a conversation with her in the beginning of the story, and that is how those two fell in love. But yet this Nazi soldier, Theodore, that's his name in the story, had no better way to approach and does not know any way to talk to a lady or has any charisma. So this guy, he gives you a bad vibe feeling. And in the story, when she was being tricked into seeing her father, which turns out he was already executed, already dead, was like, oh heck no, like you tricked me into seeing you? Like, I'm a married woman. When I finished reading this story, I'm so glad this has a happy ending too, by the way. So the author who has written it, her name is Johnny Alexander. She is a Christian author. I totally recommend reading other of her works, but this is the only one that I have. But I really like this one. This is really great. It's a historical Christian fiction story, The Midnight Sun. I have bought my coworker this book, and it's funny that she tagged me in the post, and it's nice. It's really nice. What I like about this book is that it gives, Edward Cullen's perspective in the story, and it's something that you don't really think about like other Twilight stories. I have read Twilight books. I've read Twilight, I read New Moon, Eclipse, Breaking Dawn, and how it has like 3 parts of the story with Bella's perspective, Jacob's perspective, and then it goes back to Bella again. With Edward Cullen's perspective, he talked about what he wanted to do with Bella, like when he first met her. And the thing about Edward Cullen, which I have not really thought about, is that he can read people's minds except hers. I mean, how weird is that? It's like he's a mind reader, but he can't read her mind. So he doesn't know what she is thinking. That's what drives Edward crazy the most. And at first he wanted to kill her, and now he wanted to be in love with her, which is like, make up your mind, dude. I really like this book overall, and I think with Stephanie Meyer's, there are some other books that she has written. She has written The Host and then The Chemist. I've read The Chemist, but then I go, I prefer that she sticks with books like this, or these types of genres. I think this is like every teenager's love stories that they want, but for me, when I think about it, I go, good luck with that. You're gonna need some therapy. And the other ones, the 2 that I have, these are from another Christian authors once again. I really like this one. I finished reading this last week. I know, I've been reading some books lately. So with this one, it's like the Prodigal Son. And what happens is that this kid by the name Cooper, and who the heck names their kid Cooper these days? Anyways, Cooper here was 18 years old when he left his hometown, and he goes all the way to Nashville, Tennessee to pursue his career as a musician. I mean, you can see by the cover here. And with this story, I really like the perspective as when he was older. I think like he was in his late 20s when he returned home, because when he left home, he punched his own father in the face and then left. I mean, how sad can that be, punching your own father in the face in front of other people? Just has like a struggle between him and God, and how he's just so occupied on living his dream instead of, living his life for the Lord. And, growing up in a Christian home that, this book takes place, yet it just seems like that he just doesn't have any trust with God yet until the end of the story. That's when he gets closer to God than ever before. And so that's what I really like about this book specifically the most. I do recommend people wanting to go into the right path. You'll always find your way home, especially with the Lord. And another story, it is called Angels Watching Over Me. What this is about right here is that it takes place during the slavery time in the 1800s, where these 2 young girls have lost both of their parents in a very tragic way. Both of their parents have been shot. They even have to bury their own parents. And this takes place in North Carolina. And they both try to find a way to survive, and without having any unexpected visitors showing up at their house thinking, oh, is your parents around or is your parents alive? That's pretty much what happens in the book. But I really love the story a lot. It's basically about these friendships and different types of cultures what these girls have. Mammy shares a way, you know, how they sing for the Lord, and Katie teaches her how to play an instrument, teaches her how to read and everything, and they both like protect each other. So this is what I really love about the story the most, is with these two girls, you know, have an unlikable friendship than ever before. There was another book that I got into and decided I wanted to read it so bad, is In Order to Live. And with this story in particular, this is about a young woman who escapes from North Korea, and she talks about the struggles that North Koreans have suffered, you know, with their dictatorship and everything going on. And so she talks about how her and her mother escaped. She tries to find a way out in order to live freedom. And so with this title, which is obvious, In Order to Live, I love the story. I feel like how it really impacts so many other people and how it has touched everyone around. I have watched a couple of her interviews, and I thought, you know, how interesting would this be into reading this book? You know, she's like not even 30 years old, and it's so surprising for her to like escape to North Korea and then escaping to China, and then now she's advocating for others who have escaped North Korea and for them to like overcome with this traumatic experience that they have gone through. And with her book in particular, I would really want to read this again because it's so motivational. Instead of her just giving up, she continues to move forward in her life, trying to save and to speak out for others. And she has done a pretty good job with this story. Alright, so there you have it. These are just all of my books that I've had. I apologize if I haven't gone through so many of them. It was just so much to really talk about, especially one of my few favorite books that I've read last year. I think it was really interesting for me to share some of my hobbies, which I have not really done in any of my videos. And some of the books that I've read, they're either motivational or it's just really eye-opening, or just some of the things that you just don't really think about. And so with my books that I've had, which I am grateful that I've had people giving me their books that were recommended to me, and most of the time I just want to read the books upon myself. So I just think it's great. And I hope you guys have a good night and take care.